The ABC Ride's Tourbillon promised to be an innovative new ride type that could take over both the park and fairground scene in much the same way the Topspin did in the 90s. The prototype, made by Intamin subsidiary ABC Rides, was shown testing in early 2015. This video practically went viral at the time, and garnered attention from media all over the world. And this made a lot of sense. The design of the Tourbillon is mesmerizing to watch. Unfortunately, 10 years after this prototype's debut, the Tourbillon is now basically a dead product that only 3 have been built, and all 3 seemingly have closed. The ABC Ride's Tourbillon is a giant gyroscope made into a thrill ride. The ride features 3 rings of reducing sizes, with the smallest ring featuring back-to-back rows of 12 seats for riders, giving the ride a capacity of 24 riders per cycle. Each seat features a hydraulic over-the-shoulder restraint with a locking seatbelt like what can be found on Intamin Skyjump drop towers. Each reducing size ring features its own pair of electric motors that can spin on its own axis. This trio of rings is lowered to the loading position by a pair of lifting arms. This allows the ride to load and unload at ground level, but operate high above the ground. Once the ride is started, the lifting arms raise the entire ride to operating height. The trio of rings then begin to swing and invert on their own axis. Each ring is balanced, meaning that each ring can invert very easily. Once all rings are spinning, riders will be flipped and twisted multiple directions due to the movement of all the rings they're attached to. This can be disorienting for riders, but it does not provide as much force as other rides due to the lack of speed these elements are taken with. This, among other things, likely contributed to the ride's rapid decline. So far, 3 Tourbillons have been produced, though Intamin does seemingly still offer the model as of this video's creation in April 2025. The first of these is the prototype ride that once went viral for its unique design. This ride would be sold to a showman in China who would debut the ride at a fair in Hong Kong. The ride would travel for several more years before seemingly disappearing in the last few years. This was the only traveling Tourbillon produced, and it looked to run the fastest of all the Tourbillons. In 2017, the legacy Six Flags chain would cash in on the ride's social media popularity by announcing 2 Tourbillons for their parks. One ride would be called Cyborg Cyberspin and would open at Six Flags Great Adventure, and the other ride would be called Harley Quinn Spinsanity and would be placed at Six Flags Over Texas. Both rides would open in summer of 2018 to mixed reviews. While riders enjoyed how the rides looked off-ride, the on-ride experience left a lot to be desired. Additionally, all 3 rides had issues with reliability, likely due to the amount of powered moving parts on these rides. Compounding these issues for the 2 Six Flags examples, these rides were victims of the legacy Six Flags way of investing. They were essentially popped down, given a DC name, and that was about it, with the Texas version literally being at the end of a barren asphalt path and set in the middle of a grass field. Accordingly, after their opening year, these rides became quite unpopular. This, combined with their maintenance issues, resulted in the closure of Harley Quinn Spinsanity at Over Texas in 2022 after just 4 years of operation. Cyborg at Great Adventure would live on, operating sporadically through 2024. At the end of 2024, the ride was removed and is currently listed as for sale. The traveling Tourbillon has had much less information available. Despite my best efforts, I was unable to uncover anything on this ride from the last 4 years or so, with almost all mentions of the ride online disappearing after about 2018. I was also unable to find any information on the showman that bought this ride, other than them debuting the ride in 2016. Accordingly, it's possible that this ride does still operate. However, given the lack of information and the fate of the 2 later rides, I think it's a safe bet to say that this ride may have also closed. The Tourbillon concept still lives on though through Chinese manufacturer Nanfong. Sometime in the last 6 years or so, Nanfong introduced their own version of the ride with a few modifications to make the ride a little cheaper and more reliable. Named the Gyroscope Legend, this ride does not feature the lifting arms found on the ABC Intamin version. Instead, it uses permanently mounted vertical arms with direct drive electric motors, somewhat like can be found on a Topspin. This ride also features more traditional over-the-shoulder restraints, with 2 additional seats compared to the ABC Intamin version. As the ride is incapable of lowering to the ground, the seats feature a floor for riders to walk along like on a topspin. The ride station is elevated and features a pair of rotating staircases that can be swung out to meet the ride unit for loading and unloading. This design is quite different than the ABC Intamin design, but it does have some drawbacks. The bulkiness of this system means that the Nanfong version cannot be made portable. Additionally, it would seem that while this version of the ride may be more reliable, the other problems with this ride type are likely still present, as there appears to have only been one of these rides sold. I have had the chance to ride both Tourbillons that were located in the United States before they closed. I never thought very highly of either ride. Both felt like you were just getting flipped around rather than experiencing any kind of forces. I think this was mainly due to the counterweight design of the ride, as each ring was balanced, so there was no speed or forces as you would invert and change directions. Additionally, the ride moved so rapidly that there was not much hang time either. Overall, it was not a bad ride from a ride experience perspective, but it really wasn't a good one either. I can understand why these rides were removed. However, there's no denying that these rides were visually impressive and truly had the potential to be the next big ride. That's all I have for this ride type. As I mentioned, if there is any more information on the first Tourbillon that I failed to uncover, please feel free to leave a comment down below. If you'd like to see the remaining episodes of Flat Ride Friday Season 2 without having to wait, you can become a channel member to start binging them right now. If not, no pressure though. The next episode will be out next week. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.